What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Progressive Gentleman Podcast. As always, we're your hosts. I'm Dan.
I'm Matt.
And thank you for taking the time to nerd out about music with us. This episode is sponsored by Eargasm Earplugs. Take the step to protect your hearing today. Use code GENTLEMAN10 at checkout for a nice discount. And we use their products. We love them. Couldn't recommend them enough. So definitely take that step. You don't want your ears ringing for multiple days after a show. I know we don't, and these definitely prevent that. So highly recommend it.
Yeah, I've been getting a lot of use out of them these last couple of weeks with all the shows. So definitely.
You've been going to shows like crazy, man. That's nuts.
Yeah, I didn't have the foresight to look at the calendar to see when they all landed. I was just like, sure, we can go to that one. And I was like, these are all the same week.
That's honestly what September's starting to look like right now.
Yeah, like a show every day.
Monuments, Leprous, Under Oath is playing They're Only Chasing Safety in its entirety. That's gonna be nuts. There's so many more I can't, like off the top of my head I can't think of, but it seems like every time a band announces a tour, they're coming to our area in September.
Yeah, it's like
Dayseeker might be one of them too. I think maybe they're early October, but it's wild.
Yeah, that's the fall time frame for us metal fans. So yeah, definitely get yourself a pair of Eargasm earplugs for the insane number of tours that are coming.
Absolutely, and while you're listening to this, if you could, we definitely appreciate it. Go give us a follow on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, because we have a gaming stream channel situation that we're trying to build as well. All at Progressive Gentleman. So you should be able to find us pretty easily that way. If not, if you're already following us on Instagram or one of those, our link tree is in our bio. It contains the links to all of these platforms. We'd really appreciate a follow. Also on Spotify, Apple Music, wherever you're listening to us on, if you could just click that follow button, maybe even give us a rating. We'd really appreciate that. That helps us kind of grow and continue to be able to do this. And yeah, we definitely would appreciate your support there. But anyways, jumping into I guess one more piece of housekeeping real quick. So we had a lot of people request. We have a couple Spotify playlists. One we call Progressive Gentleman Essentials, and another one we call Djems of the Week. That Progressive Gentleman Essentials playlist we don't build on as much. That's just kind of all the songs that we felt were essential to us.
Yeah, and we'll add to it occasionally over time. It's like, oh, this has got to go on here.
Yeah, and then we have another one that Jams of the Week playlist, which we update weekly. Well, mostly. Sometimes. Yeah,
usually.
Sometimes we have weeks where we are just too busy. But anyways, we've had multiple requests of getting those playlists onto Apple Music, and we are finally accommodating those requests. So we can finally be found on Apple Music. Those playlists can finally be found there. So if you're listening to us on Apple Music, go give those playlists a follow. We update them weekly. We update the Jams of the Week one weekly. We put some good songs on there. It helps discover some new music, and honestly, us doing that is a way for us to discover new music as well. And if there's anything new that you guys think we should be listening to, feel free to shoot us a message, whether it's your own music, a band that you've been following pretty closely. We like to interact with people, so feel free to give those playlists a follow and shoot us your recommendations.
Yeah.
All right, that's enough housekeeping. So this is episode 50, I think, right, Matt?
Yeah, we are on episode 50.
So that's pretty sweet. And we figured why not for episode 50 do one of our favorite episode series, which is Hidden Gems, kind of following in that vein of enjoying to discover new music. This is one of our favorite types of episodes to do because, we usually either take recommendations or bands that we've been listening to or discovered or whatever that we feel deserve more recognition. We get to do a deep dive on their music on our side and then sort of present these bands to you guys because we feel like you would enjoy them and we feel like they deserve more recognition. So that's what episode 50 is going to be. Hidden Gems, and we're going to start off with a band called Telomere. They are a prog metal band, a little bit of math rock built into there, out of one of my favorite cities, Toronto, Ontario in Canada.
Toronto.
Absolutely love that city. Been to some really cool shows in Toronto as well, but we don't have to dive into that. We don't need to jump off immediately with a rabbit hole here. But, I would say this band falls into that sort of swancore umbrella. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I definitely, that was like first, like right out of the gates, kind of what I got with it is like, although it's like different than your traditional swancore. I feel like it's definitely, if you're used to the swancore bands, it's something you'll know and enjoy. But there's something about the way they implement it that feels a little different to me than the traditional stuff.
Yeah, some swancore bands you would usually say, oh, it's a Dance Gavin Dance clone. I wouldn't say they're a Dance Gavin Dance clone. I'd say they're probably closer to like an Idola.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Little bit of Good Tiger flavor as well. Honestly, I think this is the most underrated band we'll talk about today. And I think they're probably underrated just because of their sample size as far as how much music's out there. I think they have one EP. That's really it. But the production quality on that EP is fantastic. I mean,
It's really good.
It sounds like an Idola record. Like, I mean, it's that level. Just generally the song quality. I'm honestly shocked. I think these guys have like 161 monthly listeners on Spotify. That's criminally low.
Yeah.
Like I could see these guys opening for big names like a Dance Gavin Dance even. They definitely would fit that bill. But really anything in that modern prog metal vein, like these guys would easily fit in on a tour like that. And
Yeah, I'm wondering because like I didn't do much like on the history or current state of the band, so I'm wondering, like, I know we were talking before the show a bit about them, and I was like, I'm wondering if they maybe have disbanded or something, like, and so they've kind of like fallen off because they like made the EP and then
yeah, when did that so the EP was called Where Are We Still, which I think we're wondering where they're at. But it came out in 2021, so I mean, not too long ago, but still,
yeah.
when that's the only sort of collection of music that you've put out, maybe there is something there. But regardless, that EP is fantastic. I would highly recommend anybody, especially if you're into sort of the, modern metalcore meets prog metal meets math rock, the swancore stuff, Dance Gavin Dance, Idola, even like a band like Seder, probably not as heavy as a band like, they fit like that, like Seder sound.
Yeah, it was like I couldn't, like, when I was trying to come up with comps, I couldn't like place exact things for most of these bands. Honestly, it was the all the bands we'll talk about today like blend different elements and stuff, and this band is no exception. But I'm sure people that have listened to this podcast know that both of us really like math rock, math core stuff, and prog. So this is just like that hits that sweet spot of like, especially because I've been listening to a lot of Delta Sleep lately. So
Yeah,
this
I
kind
can
of like
see a little bit of,
scratches
like,
that itch.
Delta
Well,
Sleep, Fall of Troy, instrumentally, like a little bit of that math rock vibe.
yeah, but it's like it definitely leans heavier into the prog metal, I think.
Yeah.
But you get like these very like math rocky riffs that pop up, and it's really cool.
Yeah,
I like
I
their
would
sound a
still
lot.
I would still heavily say like Idola is probably the best comp for these guys if you're
Yeah,
looking
that's a really
for
good one.
like, so if you like what Idola has done, especially their last two records, I think you would like this EP. Where Are We Still? And hopefully we get some information. Maybe these guys will reach out to us, and I'd love to know kind of, one, are they still a band? Two, what's in the works? Because I think like we said, that EP, the production quality is fantastic. I think there's a lot of meat left on the bone for these guys. I'd love to see what they do next.
Yeah, it'd be
Hopefully,
sweet if we could if they're still around, if we could chat with them and
yeah.
see what they got coming, because definitely a band to keep on the radar if they've got stuff in the works.
Yep, absolutely. So Telomere, Toronto, Ontario, Canada. Absolutely love Toronto. Um, so definitely give them a listen, give them a follow, bump those numbers up a little bit, and let's see where we go from there. But speaking of Seder, band that we talked about. Another band from the Atlanta, Georgia area. We're going to talk about here.
Oh
A
yeah.
band called Ethos. Progressive rock, more progressive rock, would you say? Probably.
Yeah, they definitely
Kind of
have.
metal elements.
Yeah, I feel like they're right on that line of like you could kind of put them in either camp. I think when I was reading on, I think on their website, they self-proclaim progressive rock or just
Okay.
rock band. So I put that in the notes.
Yeah, I would say they have some metal elements, but yeah, like proggy rock meets metal. A lot of like classical compositional elements like mixed into their sound. I
Yeah,
was trying to come up with a comp, and I think the closest I could come up with was like the Deer Hunter.
yeah, that's a good one.
I would even go as far as to say like a band that I would consider like a heavier Deer Hunter, which would be Native Construct. A lot of what they do is sort of blending like classical stuff into sort of rock and metal. I even said like instrumentally, and this is specifically instrumentally, like some Between the Buried and Me, Coma Ecliptic era elements.
Yeah, it's funny that you said that because that was what I was thinking too. But I was like, but the vocals are like not at all the same. So I was like, I don't know if I want to put BT Bam as a comparison there because it's not like 100%, but it made me feel
Yeah,
better when you said it too. I was like, okay, I'm not crazy. Like you're getting some BT Bam stuff in there
yeah.
too.
Vocally, like the vocalist gives me Anthony Green vibes, so I get a lot of like Circa Survive, like OG Seosin or Seoshin or however the hell that's pronounced, and then like modern like Anthony Green project like LS Dunes, which is his project with members of like Coheed and MyChem.
Isn't what's his? I think one of the guys from Mastodon's in there
I'm
too,
not
isn't he?
sure. I honestly like I've as sort of a heavy Coheed fan, you would think that I would be like very much
Oh, no, I
you
think
know
I'm confusing it
into
with
their
Killer
music.
Be Killed. It's another one of those like kind of super group things.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think this is more maybe it's someone from Thursday or something is in this as well. I think it's all sort of that like post rock type bands, or some would consider a lot of these bands emo bands, whatever.
Yeah.
I just refuse to call Coheed and Cambria an emo band, but but yeah, like Coheed, member of MyChem, Anthony Green, obviously from Circa or Seosin, however the hell that's pronounced. And I think maybe a member of Thursday. I'm not 100% sure on that. But regardless, like the vocalist gives me Anthony Green vibes.
There you have
and
it, our tangent for the episode.
and I really love the key sections throughout their music, especially on their full length record, which was Shade and Soil. I guess they have two full length albums. I think they have an album called Vessels as well.
Yeah.
But Shade and Soil, particularly, that's the one I feel like I spent the most time with. I really love the key sections throughout. And then they have that archetype suite sort of built into the middle of that album. And just, as a prog fan, anytime you have a suite of songs and then like reoccurring musical themes throughout and all that stuff, like obviously that's going to give me the warm and fuzzies. So I was a big fan of that as well. Yeah, I mean,
And they
really,
continued the Archetype Suite
yeah.
with their newest single, the Archetype Suite 4, Stars Align. Very, very prog ass name for a song, and I'm all on board for it. That song is sweet. I listened to it quite a bit. I've been digging it a lot.
Yeah, no, everything that I've heard from these guys is great. Really looking forward to seeing sort of the continuation of their music. I assume with the new singles dropping that we're probably going to get something a little more extensive here soon. So definitely looking forward to checking that out.
Yeah, me too. I'm excited to see if how many of the more archetype suites, like how are we going to make this number go?
Absolutely, absolutely. I think yeah. So just sort of going back, if you're a fan of the Deer Hunter. If you liked sort of what Native Construct did on their one album, Quiet World, if you like sort of that blend of, classical meets prog rock meets metal, I think these guys would be right up your alley. And I definitely those Anthony Green vibes on the vocals too. So if you're a fan of Circa Survive, especially some of their more proggier stuff, and probably Ellis Dunes. Again, I have not fully explored their catalog, but from what I've heard people talk about, I feel like maybe that's like probably a good comp too. If I had more
I
more
do
background
vaguely
on their
recall
stuff.
listening to their music when like they first announced and put out stuff, but I can't remember for the life of me what it
Yeah,
sounded like.
for me, I feel like I listened to a couple songs and didn't vibe with it all that much. So then I just kind of wrote it off. Not wrote it off, but just didn't really take a deeper dive. I wouldn't say that. So if that's the situation, then I wouldn't directly comp them comp Ethos to LS Dunes then, because I actually have very much enjoyed the music I've listened to from Ethos. Maybe I would with LS Dunes too. Who knows? But regardless, check these guys out. Deer Hunter, Native Construct, some Between the Buried and Me elements, really cool key sections, very cool compositions, everything fantastic. So go give these guys a follow, a listen, and show them some love. Moving on to another band. I love the name because it's a prog band called Frogg.
Frog Prog.
Yes. And they are a progressive metal band based out of Milan, Italy.
And it's Frogg with 2 G's.
Yes, 2 G's. Frogg with 2 G's. It was really difficult to comp these guys.
Yes, this was probably the one that I had the most difficult time with.
Yeah, they have a female vocalist, so naturally you automatically start thinking about like female fronted bands in the scene. I think you gave them a comp of like Ginger.
Yeah, I think they like sound like Ginger, but without the like the growl and like you know the heavier vocals, but has a very similar, I think, range vocally from like the clean vocal side of things. And I even think musically, there's a lot of like change ups and stuff like Ginger has, where they go into like some sort of almost like reggae like riffs, and then and then into your kind of more chuggy metal riffs, and then like some clean tone stuff. I feel like not necessarily the reggae part, but I think they do a lot of like change ups in their songs.
Yeah, so. Instrumentally, they blend a lot of styles, like almost grungy, industrial-like tones, and then they bring in sort of the modern prog metalcore sound, and it's an interesting blend for sure. And then the vocalist, I'm gonna get a little blasphemous here, so don't.
I mean, I'm sure she'll appreciate the compliment.
Don't nail me to the cross immediately here, but there's just a rawness, sort of raspiness to her voice that sometimes I would compare to like a young Stevie Nicks or even Alanis Morissette. Again, I know these are absolute fucking legends. And I know that they're, that don't nail me to the cross. I genuinely,
I see,
at times,
like I can see some comparisons. Like I wouldn't say that I see it like exactly, but I think like I can definitely see some similarities there.
And I've spent a lot of time with Jagged Little Pill, which is one of the greatest albums ever made. And I don't know, there's just some tones, some ranges within the vocals on especially on that first album, Golden Path. There's just some moments where that's just what I was thinking of. So I wrote it down and I said it, and whatever, sue me. But
no, don't sue. Just rake him through the coals in the comments.
Yeah, that's fine. I'll take my lashings. But I genuinely, that's what popped into my head, so I said it. Of all of their music, which I think they have that one full album, which is the Golden Path, and then they have an EP called A Modern Age Prometheus. They also dropped a new single called The Prophecy's Keeper. Of all of their music that they have out right now, that album, The Golden Path, I think is my favorite.
The Golden Path is really good.
It's really cool because it's a concept record, and like I did a little bit of a dive on this. And,
I was gonna say I didn't know about this, and you told me like before we started, and it's really cool.
So it's based on Klimt's allegory, Beethoven Frieze, which is like a painting that was done in 1902. And it was meant to be an artistic sort of representation of Beethoven's Ninth Symphony. That's fucking cool, first of all.
Yeah, that is
and
cool.
it's actually like it currently sits in Vienna, and I actually was looking at this literally in April of this year. So it was kind of cool to find out that, you know, this album that we discovered. Shout out to Frogg for reaching out to us. We really appreciate when bands do that. And if you're a band listening to this, send us your music. But anyways, it was really cool to find out that the concept that this album was rooted in was literally from something that I was looking at in April before I even heard of this album or this band. I have pictures of it's cool. It's pretty neat.
It's a weird like small world kind of scenario of like, wow, what are the odds of all the things this like
Yeah.
aligns, and then it's like that's just really cool.
And what is more prog than a collection of music based off of a painting that was based off of a musical composition?
Yeah.
Like, what's more prog? Like, that's crazy to me. So that, I mean, that's sweet, and
That's
just the music
like
is good.
pinnacle of concept albums. It's a concept
Yeah.
of a concept of a concept. It's just
Conceptual inception. But I would say the song Ascension is probably the standout track. We just recently had that on one of our Jams of the Week playlists. It might have even been this past week.
yeah.
But they also have a suite of songs called Hostile Forces, which is pretty pretty fantastic as well in its own right. And you know how much we love suites.
yeah.
Suites, it has everything we like. Suites of songs, like sort of, musical callbacks, concepts. Like this is prog. So
Yeah, it is. It's got everything that prog fans like, all wrapped up in one nice package. The bow
yeah,
on top.
and I genuinely wish I could give a better sort of just straight up, here's a band to comp them to. I would love to hear, and we would have reached out and got their thoughts, because I mean we were in contact with them a little bit, but I would love to know, and maybe they can throw this in the comments. Hopefully they'll listen to this.
Yeah, that'd be sweet if they could let us know.
I'd love to know what their inspiration was, what bands they sort of take inspiration from. So yeah, Frogg, if you guys are listening, we'd love to know. But definitely check these guys out. Honestly, very special stuff. They do have a new single out as well called The Prophecy's Keeper. Definitely give that a listen. But 100% check out Golden Path. That album is very good from start to finish. I think it will tickle a lot of prog fans' fancy, so to speak. So
Absolutely.
definitely go give that a listen. And moving on, a band that I've been listening to since 2018, who I genuinely thought would have had a bigger following. They've played some pretty major festivals like Prog Power Europe, and then they've also played Prog Power USA. A band called Distorted Harmony. They're a progressive metal band from Tel Aviv, Israel.
I feel like I've when you mentioned them, the name sounded very familiar and the artwork looked very familiar, but I don't remember, like, when I was listening to them, I don't recall having actually listened to them, so I don't know why. Maybe it's just one of those weird like
Yeah, and that's
deja
the
vu
thing
things.
too. I feel like there's similar response. Like I feel like a lot of people listening to this would probably be like, "Oh, I feel like I recognize the name," and then like when you go and listen to it, I feel like, "Oh yeah, I think maybe I've heard this song," or oh, that does sound familiar or whatever. But for some reason, I don't understand why these guys don't have like staying power similar to a lot of the bands I would put in this, like their direct comp to me is Sky Harbor. Like they sound very much like Sky Harbor. The vocalist's range and register is very similar to Eric from Sky Harbor. A lot of similar riffs, like, and honestly, that record, what the hell is the name of the record? Way Out. That record came out the same year as Sunshine Dust by Sky Harbor, and We Will All Be Gone by Good Tiger, which is another comp that I would give them. I was listening to all those records sort of around the same time, and to me, they're all very much sort of complements to one another. So if you like Sky Harbor and you like that record, Sunshine Dust, you definitely would like their record A Way Out.
Yeah, I think too, like, not necessarily comps, but if you listen to like Haken, Caligula's Horse, and Vola, I feel like they fit in that kind of like that pocket of prog that, like, I don't think they sound exactly like them, but I think if you're a fan of any of those bands, you will like Distorted Harmony.
Yeah, they do sort of those like massive, like, sound. They sound relatively simple, but massive sounding instrumentals, very similar to like Sky Harbor or even like early Tesseract.
Yeah, that's a good one too.
I mean, there's a lot of stuff that these guys do that are very similar to all these bands we just sort of rattled off here, and the fact that I don't hear maybe like when was the last record that they released? Was it that record, A Way Out?
I think so, because I think when I jotted them down, I was like scrolling through their discography, and it was like in reverse chronological order. So I think A Way Out was the most recent one. That's the one with the purple with the ring on the front, right?
Yep,
Yeah.
yep. So maybe this is another one of those bands that maybe disappeared. I mean, Sky Harbor's in that vein too. Where the hell's Sky Harbor been? But yeah, maybe they don't make music anymore. I mean, that would be a shame. But yeah, they have not released anything since 2018. So maybe that's the reason they've fallen off. But a lot of this, like, I don't understand. Like, I hear a lot more Sky Harbor mixed into stuff than I do these guys, and I feel like they're on the same playing field. So for that reason, I still think that they're relevant to be included in sort of a hidden gems because I feel like A Way Out is a fantastic record. Chain Reaction's a pretty solid record too. There's some good tracks off of that record. That I feel like these guys deserve to be, on a lot more playlists.
Yeah, I know.
Even if they're not
listening to them
making
a lot
music. Yeah.
leading up to the episode and like thoroughly listened through their discography, and it was like, knowing which bands we're gonna include on the episode. It was like I want to get a fair listen to all of them, and I found myself like, I'll just listen to another track, and then it was like two more tracks and three more, and it just kept going. So
Yeah, these guys are fantastic. Hopefully they're still making music or at least planning to still make music. I mean, I guess their last record was 2018, so that's 6 years ago. So
yeah,
that might, maybe we're turning you guys onto a band that, I mean, but still, if you've not listened to their stuff, it's still discovering something new. But hopefully these guys reach out too and maybe are like, oh, hey, we're working on something. Similar to frickin' Good Tiger, who's been teasing a new record for the last 3 years and hasn't done shit. Or Sky Harbor, who just vanished. That's another band. So I guess that makes it an even more accurate comp. But damn, yeah. Hopefully these guys make something new because that album A Way Out is something special. So if you've not listened to these guys before, if you've not listened to A Way Out by Distorted Harmony, definitely go give them a listen. And if they're on social media, go give them a follow and give them a poke and say what the hell's going on. And let's see if we can figure that out. But our last band is this is a band that I'm actually shocked doesn't have more followers, more listens, whatever. It is a band called Cold Night for Alligators.
We've got frogs and we got alligators up in this episode.
It's a very reptilian-friendly episode. But they are a progressive metal band. They're probably more progressive metal. From Copenhagen, Denmark, which I might be going to here in August or September. So
another small world scenario.
I'll have to see. If these guys play some shows locally. I'd have to check that out. But these guys are very quintessential sort of modern progressive metal, in my opinion. I get a lot of Tesseract vibes. I would even comp them to a band we just recently interviewed called Aviations. If you guys have not checked out, if you guys have not checked out our interview with Aviations, definitely go check that out. It is streaming everywhere you get your podcast. It is also on YouTube.
Those guys are fun to chat with.
Yeah, they were a lot of fun. Those dudes are geniuses and incredible musicians. So definitely go check them out. But I would comp Cold Night for Alligators to Aviations. I think their sound is very similar. And kind of where prog metal is trending, like modern progressive metal, which I've been enjoying very much. You know, your Tesseracts, Aviations, band like Stellar Circuits, Vola, which we just talked about a little bit ago, Time the Valuator, Circles. I mean, there's so many bands that, you know, are sort of adapting the sound, and I think, you know, obviously, I guess you love it or hate it, but I very much enjoy it.
Yeah.
And one thing I really like about this band is their inclusion of like keys and other sort of non-traditional metal instruments. I love when bands do that shit. A song like No Connection kind of puts that on full display. Definitely the standout track for me in their discography.
I feel like another comp that I just thought about is Cyborg Octopus.
Yeah.
I feel like that's a pretty good
Shout out Cyborg
comp.
Octopus.
And I think we did a Hidden Gems for them.
I think we did. If not, we should.
So if you've checked them out from the previous episode, Cold Night for Alligators is like not exact, but I feel like they're kind of in the same wheelhouse.
Yeah, I would say Cyborg Octopus is a little bit heavier leaning.
Yeah. I think like Cyber Octopus is a little more like frantic sounding, you know, kind of has that
organized chaos that I love to.
Yeah. It has that like kind of Cryptodira, like car bomb kind of level of like just like hard hitting, like chaotic, frenetic music. And I mean, Cold Night for Alligators has that too, but I think it's more, I think it seems to skew like more melodic than it does like chaotic.
Yeah, and I feel like when they get heavier, like on a song like Nostalgic, you get sort of almost heavier Periphery type vibes more than, you know, a band like Car Bomb or something like that. I feel like it's almost like leans heavy Periphery versus like but they are like the way they sort of, you know, compose their music. I totally get the comps to those bands as well. But yeah, I think these guys are pretty criminally underrated. I don't know if it's like when was their last release? I know they have 3 records. Their last release was 2022. Okay, so yeah, criminally underrated. I mean that record the Hindsight Notes, which came out in 2022, is fantastic. It's on par with any release that came out from any of these other bands that we mentioned. These guys weren't as heavy on our radar then, or else like I could see this record sort of being in our album of the year discussion towards the end of the year that we did in 2022. So, I mean, genuinely putting out quality music. And definitely deserving of some more plays here.
Yeah, I found myself like when I was going through and listening to their discography, it's like trying to pick out like a favorite track, and I was like, "Ooh, I think this one might be my favorite." And then like it kept getting replaced by another one. I was like, "They're all good. I can't pick a favorite."
Yeah, I genuinely like No Connection is probably my favorite track. By them. I just like the blend of like the keys meets the like strings meets, you know, your traditional obviously like metal stuff. I mean, it's just the blend of those different instruments is something that I've always enjoyed in progressive metal and just music in general. So that's kind of, I'm a sucker for that type of shit.
Yeah, I think was it Worn Out Mannequin that has a vocal feature on it. It's like it kind of goes like black metal-y a little bit. It kind of adds like a blackened element.
Oh yeah,
to it.
yeah. There's like there's
cool.
an interesting feature there. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was cool. Like not what I was expecting because it like doesn't do that at all the rest of the album. So it kind of just like, wait a minute, am I still listening to Cold Night for Alligators, or did it go to another song?
Start shuffling stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
no,
that was cool.
There's definitely a lot of twists and turns and surprises and stuff like that within, you know, musically, compositionally within that record. And I definitely need to spend a little bit more time with Fervor and Course of Events I spent the most time with Hindsight Notes just because I really liked that record.
Yeah, it's a really good.
But yeah, if you're into any of those bands we mentioned, I mean, Tesseract, Aviations is a really good comp. Stellar Circuits, Time Evaluator, Circles, Vola. I would even say some Between the Buried and Me, even though we use them for everything. I feel like Between the Buried and Me is such an all-encompassing, does all kinds of different shit type of band that it's usually really easy to draw some sort of like line between, and they're just such an influential band, especially to a lot of modern progressive metal bands that
Yeah.
I would be shocked if any of the bands that we have talked about haven't in some way drawn some inspiration from that band. So we mention them a lot, but also they're very influential. So it's funny, like whenever a band like we kind of grew up with is now like the Godfathers in a way to a lot of the bands that we listen to now.
Yeah.
Like, you know, so many bands in the progressive rock world draw parallels or draw inspiration from Coheed and Cambria and Deer Hunter and bands like that. And, you know, so many bands in the progressive metal world draw inspiration from obviously the classics like, Dream Theater and stuff like that. But like now, you know, the bands that we listen to that drew inspiration from Dream Theater are now being used as inspiration to these other, you know, to the newer bands.
Yeah,
you know,
they're like it's like the changing of the guard kind of.
Yeah.
You know,
So
BT Bam or the Prog Fathers.
So it's cool sort of seeing that changing of the guard and being able to sort of draw lines between, you know, some of the bands we're talking about now and those bands that we sort of grew up listening to. So that's why we mention a lot of the same bands a lot of the time, because I feel like that's, you know, they have sort of taken over as being, some of the biggest influences on modern progressive music. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, a lot of really good music, a lot of really good bands we just talked about. We'll just sort of recap, come down the line here. So, Telomere is the first band we talked about.
I think Telomere also is stylized. It has like a little line over the first E, I think.
Yeah.
Because I think there are multiple telomeres when you search. So
Yeah. So, so Telomere with the little line over the E. We're probably pronouncing it wrong too because of that. But progressive metal, math rock flavor, kind of, metal rock, prog metal, prog rock, whatever you want to consider them, out of Toronto. Shout out Toronto. And for fans kind of anything in that Swancore vein, but specifically Idola, I would say, and Good Tiger are probably like the two closest comps for those guys. Ethos, like proggy rock meets prog metal from Atlanta, Georgia. A lot of sort of classical compositional elements, definitely in the vein of a Deer Hunter or a Native Construct, with those Anthony Green vibe vocals. So definitely check them out if any of that sort of tickles your fancy. Frogg, a band that I just can't come up with a straight up comp, but we'll say Ginger just for the lack of coming up with a better comp. I also threw out the Alanis Morissette and old school Stevie Nicks sort of vibes with some of the vocals. Please don't come for me in the comments too bad. But their album Golden Path is fantastic. Definitely listen to that. They do have some new stuff out as well. Prophecy's Keepers, their newest single, but I would highly recommend that Golden Path record. Distorted Harmony, progressive metal band from Tel Aviv, Israel. To me, Sky Harbor is a perfect comp for them. So if you're a big fan of Sky Harbor, like especially that Sunshine Dust record, I think you would really like their record A Way Out. And then Cold Night for Alligators, sort of prog alt metal from Copenhagen. We just talked about them, but a lot of Tesseract vibes, a lot of Aviations vibes, a lot of that modern progressive metal sound. Keys, non-traditional instruments blended in, really give it a cool feel. Some Periphery-esque riffs here and there and some of the heavier stuff. Yeah, if any of this stuff sounds like it's up your alley, we would highly recommend checking these guys out, bumping those monthly listener counts up a little bit, bumping those stream numbers up a little bit. Give them some follows on socials. We'll link all of that stuff when this episode drops or at some point after when the episode drops. I love doing this shit, man. I love.
Yeah, this is one of my favorite episodes too. It's we do a lot of prep work to like make sure we thoroughly listen through the bands before we do it, but it's like the funnest one to do because it just like everything's new for me, and it's like discovering stuff. It's always fun.
And just trying to come up with like trying to draw those parallels. Like Frogg was a really fun one because it was just really fucking hard.
It
Like
made my brain hurt trying to make a comparison.
yeah, and like some of their stuff is very like raw in a way to like not to say like unpolished because that sounds like a negative. I wouldn't say it's negative at all. Like it's just I don't know. It's difficult to sort of draw. Like it was kind of difficult for Coheed and Cambria fans probably back in early 2000s whenever Second Stage came out. Like who do you compare them to? Like it's just that raw sort of sound. Like it made it tough, but the concept and shit like that just sort of blew my mind. And then just everything about that record is really cool. So, but yeah, for just trying to come up with like listening to shit and then try to figure out where they're coming from with this stuff. And then sometimes we have information and sometimes we don't. So it's like, oh, what was the concept on this versus like trying to figure out, is this a concept record? And I mean, it's cool. It's fun.
Yeah, that's cool. I didn't know about the concept of that album, so like finding that after the fact is like makes you want to go back and like re-listen to it now that I have that lens. And
yeah, and do a little research on the Beethoven frieze, that painting and
yeah,
sort of
I'm gonna have to go back and
the interpretations of it. Yeah, that Klimt painting. Yeah, a lot of cool shit. But yeah, I mean these episodes are always fun, and we hope that you guys give all of these bands a listen, check it out. I'm sure we'll include some of their stuff on. Maybe we'll do like a song from each of these bands on the Jams of the Week playlist coming up.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, good idea.
I feel like that'd probably be pretty neat. And so we'll look to do that, but definitely go give these guys a listen. We'll tag all their socials if we can find them. Some of them we know, some of them we don't. So we'll see what we can do as far as on the social media stuff. And yeah, if you're not already following us on social media, we'd really appreciate it. It's at Progressive Gentleman, pretty much everywhere that we're active. That's what it is. So,
yeah.
So we're probably most active on Instagram. So we'd love for a follow on Instagram at Progressive Gentleman. Anything you see on Facebook is literally just regurgitated from Instagram. We're not really active on Facebook or,
we do try to respond, like if we get comments and stuff, we try to respond there, but like that's not our primary social media that we check. So
yeah, I would say primarily if you need to get a hold of us or want to get a hold of us, Instagram is the way to go. That's where we're the most active and that's where we pay the most attention. Obviously, if you're a band looking for us to check your music out, give you a review, anything like that, feel free to shoot us an email. Our email address is in our bio on Instagram. We are starting to build up our YouTube page slowly but surely. That's kind of a new venture for us. But if you are on YouTube, all of our content is available on there as far as the podcast stuff goes, as well as some additional content. We had started a gaming channel, Progressive Gentleman Gaming. There's an Instagram page for that. There's also a Twitch channel for that, at Progressive Gentleman. Feel free to go follow either of those things, and some of that content will also be cross-posted on YouTube. Again, at Progressive Gentleman everywhere. So please give us a follow. We really appreciate the support. It helps us grow. We love to sort of prop up these bands. That's kind of what we do this for. So it's really not for us. We don't really, we don't take any profit or anything like that out of this. This is all just strictly to sort of build a community and prop up these bands.
Spread the good word.
So if that's something that sounds appealing to you, click that follow button. Wherever you're listening to us at, click that follow button. We'd love a rating as well. It helps get our content in front of more people. So if you feel so inclined, go ahead, rate us, give us a review if you want. Tell me that I'm real dumb for that Alanis Morissette comment.
with a 5-star review, preferably.
Yes, yeah. Please. You can still tell me I'm dumb and give us a 5-star review. But But yeah, we really appreciate you guys listening. We have listeners in 58 countries now. That's crazy. It's crazy to me that anybody wants to listen to us, let alone people in 58 countries. So thank you guys so much for the support.
Yeah, we really appreciate it.
And yeah, we'll catch you again soon. Until next time, thank you so much.
Thanks.